Today I'll be going through the procedures of upgrading Replicator as well as SharePoint CU installations. Depending on whether your company needs to update to the latest SharePoint CU update, there are certain steps you must take while running Replicator within your environment. First thing to do is confirm whether Replicator works with the SharePoint update you're about to apply within your environment. Next would be the installation of the SharePoint update, followed by upgrading Replicator if it is required. In some cases, you may be able to use the same existing Replicator version. However, you still will need to apply certain steps. So first thing would be via Central Administration Application Management page. You first want to verify whether or not the whether or not the SharePoint update is supported. The simplest way to do that, you could go within our About Replicator page, and if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see this Get Version Information button. Once you click that, sorry, I should point out that this will only work if you're online. So if you do an online activation, this will work. If you require offline activation, there's additional steps you would be required to use. So basically, once you click on Get Version Information, we'll display that your current version, you'll display Replicator, your current version installed, and it will say what versions of SharePoint this version of Replicator supports, basically. So first thing I would do basically is you could either verify within this page, basically. This will tell you if it's supported or not. The second step, we have a XML file located on the internet. You could browse to that page. This is the URL here. We could send it out to you guys afterwards. And basically you would do a find for that SharePoint version or the suggested version number that you were needing to apply. So if you were to do a find, you would see within our file that it is within. It actually says that this version of SharePoint was supported via Replicator 7.1.11208.23. So this would indicate that it isn't required to actually upgrade Replicator. It's already supported. However, at the time you installed this version of Replicator, we were unaware of that SharePoint version. So basically, once you click on Get Version Information, we're going to update our supported versions table within Replicator, and you'll see that the version is now supported. Another thing you should verify, you want to find the KB article number. That as well will be listed within our XML file. So if you simply do a copy of the KB article and do a Control F, you'll also find the KB article number. One thing that a lot of our customers often get messed up on, I guess, is within the KB article, it mentions a build number of basically the SharePoint update build. This isn't necessarily the number that, actually it isn't at all the number that Replicator is concerned with. We're more concerned with the actual SharePoint configuration schema version. So these numbers will be different. If you try to find this number within our file, it doesn't exist. Replicator doesn't care about the build number. So if there are times when update is released after our Replicator version, Actually, before I get there, another area we will look at is within our release notes. Within each of our releases, we add what version has been added for support. So our current April release mentions that we added support for March 2018 CUs for SharePoint 2010 as well as 2013 and 2016. All of those have been added within our current release. Generally, SharePoint releases updates, I believe, around the middle of the month. So there will be times when you look in here, and as an example, it's April now. This is our April release. You won't see our April release, or sorry, you won't see the April SharePoint update within this release notes, simply because we released earlier in April and the SharePoint update comes out mid-April. All right, so in that case, it's best to email support just to confirm whether or not it is supported, and we'll get you the details you needed that are needed. Generally, we add support within a day or two of the SharePoint release. Once you've confirmed that the SharePoint update is supported, the next step to do would be to disable Replicator within your web application. Doing that, you go into the Configure Web Application page and select No for Enable Replicator for this web application. You could apply that by selecting OK. And these are important steps that you should do each time applying SharePoint updates. We also suggest to stop the Replicator services. And that's via the Windows Services Manager. And stopping the Metalogics Replicator Transport Service will stop both of our services. And simply select Yes. And at this point, once you've confirmed that the SharePoint update is supported by your Replicator version, it's acceptable or a good time to apply that installation. I'm not going to go ahead and run the install for the CU. That will take too long, but I've already ran it. And one of the common mistakes that people make is once applying the SharePoint CU installation, they don't confirm the update or the upgrade by running the SharePoint configuration wizard. That should always be done after running your installation of the SharePoint CU update. Common errors that you will see if that is the case when you haven't run the configuration wizard. When you try to enable the web application for Replicator, you'll receive a warning message and it won't allow you. It'll basically say unable to extend content databases that are within this specific web application. So that's a tell you basically that something's wrong, you need to complete the upgrade. Another telling area would be within the Manage Databases Upgrade Status page, and that's located within Central Administration. If you go to Upgrade and Migration, you'll find that within here. If you select Review Database Status, it will show you basically whether or not your databases are in compatible mode or if there's any action required. When you don't run the SharePoint installation, basically configuration wizard, sorry, you will find that all of your databases will reflect that they're in compatibility mode. Replicator will not work in this scenario. So that's when you basically need to finalize your configuration. Once that has been done, if you come back to the database upgrade status, you'll see that no action is required. At that point, it would be safe to enable your database web application again. If there was a requirement for an upgrade of Replicator, if your existing version did not support the SharePoint update, basically you would just download our latest version of Replicator from our support site. That's from our products and downloads page. You'd find the Replicator and you would download the latest version. That's a simple process, basically running the installation over top of your existing version. Once you installed it, you come back within the About Replicator page, and basically you will see that the version is supported and you're good to basically confirm or good to run your next testing. But basically those are the required steps of both upgrades of SharePoint CUs as well as Replicator updates. From my history with Replicator and upgrading scenarios, common questions are, is it required to disable Replicator? A lot of people might not do it. They may find that replication or the upgrade has been successful while Replicator was enabled in the web application. Sometimes it will work, but it is always best to disable from the web application first. Applying the SharePoint update over top our Replicator databases could break things, and you will get caught in a scenario where replication will not work anymore, even though the version does support the SharePoint update. In those cases, you'll find that replication stops working. You'll see that the services are stopped. At this time, does anyone in the audience have any questions? Actually, so I just received the question. Why are my services stopping right after I applied SharePoint update? Okay, so most common scenario for that is, let me just show this image again. Most likely, the installation was either applied over top of Replicator and that broke things, that causes our services to stop, or simply the Replicator version doesn't support the SharePoint update. That's a possibility. Or it's possible that the SharePoint configuration wasn't wizard wasn't run. Often you'll see within the event viewer also, if there are cases of the services stopping, it will show that there is a compatibility issue with the Replicator version and SharePoint version. That's the first place I would check if you are seeing that happen. Check within your event viewer. And you would expand your applications and services logs. Within there, we have our methodologics for Replicator status within there. And here you will most likely see the reasoning as to why the services did not start up. And I just noticed mine are still stopped, so I'll start mine up. Okay, so I received another question. How do I know whether or not my version of Replicator supports the SharePoint update or CU I am wanting to install? Okay, so again, first place to verify would be within Central Administration site About Replicator page. And you could simply click on the Get Version Information. Within here, it will tell you what version basically of SharePoint your Replicator version supports. Another place to check within our release notes, and that's also found on our within our website. Basically, in every change log for our release notes, we add in what version is currently supported. That's we release Replicator on a monthly basis, so you'll always see the previous month added in the current version. I mentioned earlier that we release Replicator usually within the first week of the month. And generally the SharePoint updates come out after that. So you won't find, as an example, the April release within this release notes as we released prior to the SharePoint update. If that is the case, if, for example, April, if you're wanting to apply April release, the best thing is to reach out to us and we could verify that whether or not it is supported. Another location, we have our supported versions table. Within here, you can find what versions of SharePoint are supported. And simply, you could look for the KB article that you're wanting to apply and do a search within and validate whether or not it is within our supported versions of SharePoint. I should also point out within our reference or within our installation guide, it does also walk through the procedure of SharePoint updates as well as Replicator updates as well as SQL updates, but more commonly it's the SharePoint updates and Replicator updates that clients are doing. This has pretty much the exact steps that are required to follow. Thank you for joining in. I appreciate your time.